In 1912, I got a job building a railroad in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Fine town, fine people, river, hills. In 1913, I opened an engineering office there, which, praise God, is still open. Howard R. Green.
Mr. Green was a railroad employee for about a year, or maybe a little more than a year after he graduated. Well, actually, after he left the University of Illinois. The fact that he did not graduate is another interesting story, but at any rate, shortly into his employment with the local railroad company, his boss informed him that due to economic circumstances and so forth, they were going to have to lay him off. So he was a young 23-year-old engineer without a job, didn't know where to go, and he asked his boss what he should do, and his boss indicated that his church, St. Paul's Methodist Church, was actually ready to start construction on a new church, and they needed someone to oversee the construction of the church, and asked if Mr. Green would be interested in it. And he said, well, sure, but I haven't done anything like that. So Mr. Green was told to go talk to some trustees of the church, and the trustees were very interested in hiring him, and one thing led to another. So they were pretty much of the agreement that they would like to hire Howard Green to supervise construction of the church, which is at that time probably not as famous as it is today, being a Louis Sullivan design. And this, in fact, turned out to be the very first project Howard Green undertook, and the construction lasted more than a year. It was completed in 1914. I first met Howard R. Green when I was working as a summer student here at the firm, and then really never got to know him until I started full-time in 1969. And Mr. Green was one of the most warm, caring, concerned individuals that you'll ever meet. He was very much a sole practitioner. He loved being the head of the firm, wanted to keep it small, but he was an engineer's engineer, highly respected. My first meeting with him, I was scared to death. Being a young engineer and new graduates, I felt like I really didn't know a lot and learned every day on the job. And even though Mr. Green was retired at the time, he was very friendly. He would come to work every day until the day he passed away, and kind of walk through in the morning prior to his trip across the street to go to the Elks Club for lunch. This company has been extremely stable over the years. In 100 years, we have had 5 people at the head of the firm. In that same 100 years, we've seen 9 popes and 16 presidents of the United States.
You know, as I look back on the history of H.R. Green and the number of leaders that the organization has had in place, with me being the 6th one, it's pretty remarkable to look at that in and of itself, but also just the stability of the organization in decades where there's been incredible change, and I suppose that's life and part of the business evolution. That change will happen, but you can take 2 paths to that, and one is to let the change happen around you and kind of run as is, or 2, you can embrace that pace of change and seize opportunities. And as I look back at the history of the organization, that has been a hallmark of the company, and that is to seize opportunities and to look at change not only to better the organization but to better yourself. I think if you want to improve yourself and improve the organization, you have to embrace change and seize it where it will seize you.
Green was a master of seizing and, in some cases, creating opportunities that fueled his business while improving life for people. He was a tireless advocate for road paving and wastewater treatment. He even designed public swimming pools for many communities. Green devised and popularized new ways to finance capital improvements. And he landed major wartime contracts with the federal government during the 1940s, enlarging his company to 500 employees. But he remained a sole practitioner at heart. And after the war, he immediately shrank the firm back to his comfort level of 25 employees. Growth would come later, under the leadership of a new generation.
At that point in time, the company was about 55 people. So one of the things that I believed in and still do is if organizations aren't growing, they're actually declining. And I was very fortunate to have employees with me that believed in growth and believed in expansion. And by the time I transitioned the CEO job in 2009, we were 350 employees.
Really, it's that mindset and the mentality of wanting to grow. And that is something that has been a hallmark of H.R. Green historically for a lot of years, and that is to look at growth opportunities in the market geographically and seize them. And that's something that we've done most recently, again, with Texas and Illinois.
In Texas, Ed Barlow was impressed with the integrity shown by H.R. Green. His firm, Sparks Barlow Barnett, joined H.R. Green in 2009.
We had 3 firms that came down, and we had no idea what we were doing. We'd never had the business valued. You know what it was worth. One of them was from North Carolina, and they were a land development company and did more surveying than they actually did engineering. And we didn't think that would be a good fit for us. So the other one was from California, a wild-eyed bunch of fellows that they could do anything, you know. And we didn't think that was a good fit. And H.R. Green showed up in the form of a fellow named Dan Lovett. And we knew that the Midwest had a cultural likeness, a commonality in culture, meaning that they do what they say and they say what they do, and I mean they hold with their handshake is their bond, their word is their bond, and we saw that pretty quick.
That same year, SEC Group of Illinois joined H.R. Green. Founder John Smith identified with the company's entrepreneurial, adaptable approach to business.
Being a contractor for the first years of my life, I got to meet a lot of people, and decided to strike out on my own with the help of actually the contractor that I worked for. And the contractor introduced me to even more people, and before you know it, we started doing work for like little townships and cities and things of that nature, and some land development if there was any, and there was very limited at that time. There was nothing, even though we were small, there was nothing too big for us. We weren't afraid of anything. And maybe we were naive, maybe maybe that's good, I don't know. But nevertheless, we tackled everything that came along, and we just had a get it done attitude. You know, probably the most striking example of how we adapted is in this facility where we're standing here at Sun City, Del Webb, and Huntley. We actually talked our way into becoming the choice consultant for this project. I mean, 100% of this project. This is a 6,000 unit plus city, and all brand new infrastructure. I mean, everything from wastewater to water to dry utilities to gas, electric, cable, highways, streets. We did road improvements out on Illinois 47. I mean, there wasn't a thing that we relocated a creek, won an award for relocating a creek. A farmer had a perfectly straight creek, and like they did in the old days, they were only concerned about draining it. Well, we restored it to its natural location and put mussels in it, and the mussels are thriving to this day, and I mean, it's become a real environmental plus to the area.
Adaptation and evolution continue to be hallmarks of H.R. Green, as evidenced by the company's amazing diversity. Today, H.R. Green serves clients across 5 very different markets: transportation, water, governmental services, energy, and senior living. But threads of commonality run through all 5. they help clients achieve success, and they improve quality of life for people. For instance, the company's Windsor Manor assisted living facilities are excellent examples of how H.R. Green combines alertness to business opportunity with a commitment to making a better tomorrow.
I get an opportunity to go to those facilities each quarter, and just walking around those properties and looking at the elderly and how happy they are in these properties and where they live just is very heartwarming that H.R. Green has made this happen.
There's any number of opportunities out there that weren't there when I entered the business. It's a more complex industry. You never know when that opportunity is going to come about. Your wheels need to always turn, even if you're just in a social conversation, so that you can be ready to take advantage of that.
When Mr. Green founded this company in 1913, consulting engineering was an established profession. There weren't a lot of people in consulting engineering, but in 100 years, the career has changed, and today he would not recognize what we do. In order to really be successful in the next 100 years, the firm will have to continue to adapt.
Every organization survives and thrives in good times and in bad times, and we just have to continue to adapt. We have to continue to seize those opportunities, much like my predecessors have done, and that's something that we will do.